For many people who are on a healing journey, a spiritual awakening, we have these big periods of time that involve periods of heaviness. I just went through a really big one myself, and so it's quite fresh. And I've talked to a lot of other people who are navigating something similar recently. And sometimes we have these big feelings of heaviness come through. And we think, what have I done wrong? Where have I gone wrong? What haven't I looked at? And it's really easy to get confused and bogged down and discouraged when we have big feelings of heaviness or despair move through and wonder what they're connected to and want to distract ourselves and move away from them. Try and just focus on something positive. I would invite you to the option of sometimes these heavinesses, which are from the past, by the way. These heavinesses are things we haven't grieved yet. If you're on a true healing journey, if you're on a true spiritual awakening journey, you've left behind many people, many situations, many places along the way that were no longer a fit for you. Some were easy to leave, some were maybe sudden, some were maybe difficult. And especially at the beginning, we have a lot of momentum because we still have a well-structured ego. And that well-structured ego can kind of force its way in and out of things. It has this drive. It's a beautiful thing. And so it doesn't always stop and smell the roses and feel the effects of all these big changes that we are making, which are great changes, and they are driven by the soul in the vehicle of the ego. But as time passes and that old ego structure that is so strong gets cracks in it where the light starts to come in, there's less of a me momentum. I'm doing this. I can do it. I'm not going to feel anything. I'm just going to push through. As the light comes in, there's more feeling, and there's more truth, and there's more levels and layers of understanding. And so sometimes our heavinesses, when we feel waves of heaviness come through, could even be waves of despair or waves of depression that don't seem to have a source that's really obvious. There may have been things that we have let go of in the past that were expired and due to be let go of, even if they were just ideologies or attitudes or ways of being. But in some way, they did serve us. Even if they had toxic elements, there was something in them that was enjoyable or comfortable or soothing. Maybe something that gave us a special type of belonging. And when we no longer have it, or maybe the new thing that we hope will give us from the outside, give us those things, hasn't showed up, there can be these waves of heaviness. Sometimes people find themselves even missing relationships with people that weren't good for them because there was a level of belonging. There was things that felt positive within that relationship. And those relationships and those situations, even some of those attitudes and forceful ways of being that we're no longer in anymore, they did serve us somehow at the time. And some sort of a void or a hole was left. And so when these heavinesses come through in waves, which they should and they will continue to do as more light pours through the cracks in our fracturing egos, think about what has not yet been grieved. Even if it's a toxic relationship that you left, guaranteed, you've got beautiful photographs, You've got songs that hold memories, birthday parties, holidays, things and times where things were actually okay on that day, okay on that weekend, And if you're now without a close relationship like that, or a similar situation like that, the good parts of it, sometimes we miss and long for those special times and what they gave us. And those are things that need to be grieved, especially if we moved out of them very quickly with a lot of momentum. And you've done the right thing if you've moved out of something that is expired. It was led by your soul. You've done the right thing. But some of those pieces that are heavy are calling to you for grieving. And this could be anything, even like when it comes to deaths or separations or divorces or moving home, jobs, friendships that have collapsed, so many different things that we don't grieve, we just move on from. And then when we start to become more tender and sense more, become more sensitive to all the different energies, we realize, okay, there's a few things that I haven't honored in given them the proper honoring process when they were on their way out. Didn't have time, didn't have space. So if you're one of the many people that are moving through waves of heaviness right now, which is really common at this moment in time, recording this on September 2nd, when I ask what comes to mind first when it's something that needs to be grieved by you, you probably have something that pops up. And take some time today to sit with that and be with that. Be with, the difficulty and the toxicity, but be with the beauty that was there as well, the opportunities that came with that person or situation, the memories. Because life is not just black and white. Even with expired things, there was a lot of beauty in what it was before it expired. And so what honor does that need to be given? Even a smile in your heart towards that person, that situation, for what came of that experience or that connection, that memory. I really believe in the power of ritual, and that ritual is very individual between person to person. But in the West, we don't have as much ritual, and so we move on from things so quickly that we have a lot of heaviness that builds up on the inside. So many of us are just discovering how much heaviness is actually there. One of my simplest rituals is connecting back with the earth, with the land, which is always going to be there for us. It's not going to expire. Our bodies are going to expire before the earth does. So connecting with the land and finding a quiet place in nature, maybe bringing a few sacred items like some incense, a candle. I like to leave a bit of natural tobacco or some cacao, some good quality cacao, and just represent in those things the beauty of the gifts that we had before they expired. Give thanks to the universe for their time with us. Honor those things as though we're giving them a proper burial. Feeling the heaviness of the loss of the good parts of what we have lost. And if the heaviness comes through again on the same subject, the same topic, to revisit that and to allow any grief or sadness to resurface over and over and over again. Many books have obviously been written about grief and all of the stages and all the processes, but sometimes it's actually just little pieces that we haven't tended to that can make all the difference, that can lift all the heaviness. Sometimes the heaviness is really big and really uncomfortable, but just bringing some honor and some respect to what's asking to be grieved can shift it really fast. That's what I found in the last week. Just requires a little bit of stillness and a little bit of inquiry as to what haven't I grieved. And this will happen over and over and over again. And we can sometimes get really startled at the heaviness waves, the despair waves that seem to show up out of nowhere, the triggers. But it doesn't mean we're going backwards, and it doesn't mean that we haven't made any progress. It just means that these are little layers, little filaments of energy that are just calling to us for a little bit of honor, a little bit of remembrance. And then when we do honor these things, and we do have our personal ritual, and we do have our personal grief moments, we can lay them to rest. And when we do lay them to rest, and we get a little bit more lightness, we create a little bit more space for something new and beautiful to come. Because energetically, if we are always sitting in heaviness, there's not a lot of space for any lightness to come. And even if lightness did come, we might be wallowing or in a little bit of self-pity, so we wouldn't even enjoy it anyways. So, pay attention to your heaviness. It's probably some type of grief that hasn't been observed. Observe it. Be with it. Do a ritual. And then notice and observe the lightness on the other side. Get curious as far as what's going to be brought to you next, because the universe is always moving and it wants to bring good things to you. But first, it just wants you to observe, what is this heaviness? What is needing to be grieved as a result of this heaviness? And to follow through.